Hey, everybody. Coming up next is our interview with comic creator and book publisher Fabrice Sapolsky, who's running a publishing company called Fair Square Graphics. Check out their website, fairsquaregraphics.com. They have some really nice books.
And Fabrice will be talking to us about how he feels about Spider-Man Noir, which he co-created, and how he feels about the comic book industry as a whole and what they should be doing to survive. This is a really great interview.
It's a very interesting perspective on the way things are going and the way things have been for a while.
Don't miss this one.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. It's a behind-the-scenes look at a publisher and a writer and a creator and how he's surviving and how he thinks everybody else can survive in the comic book industry. Enjoy.
Okay, we're here today with Fabrice Sapolsky. And please, if I said any part of your name wrong, correct me.
Oh, you're good. Okay,
Good.
compared to other people, you're perfect. Thank you for having me, and thank you for not butchering neither my first name or my last name, because
That's the English teacher in him. And Fabrice, you're our first interview that we've ever done that we met before the interview. We've always met creators after we interviewed. We met you and we got to chat with you
last week.
Last week
Comic-Tron.
at Comics Con, and it just made us. We had planned this already, but it just made us doing this way more happy about doing this than before.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Now, you have a Kickstarter going on right now, right?
Yes, it's
And
called
that's
The Big Lie.
The Big Lie.
Yes. It's called The Big Lie, and it's kind of scary actually, because this is completely uncharted territory for me. I know you guys have interviewed Will from I'm blanking. Will from
Yes, Will from
exactly.
Top Shelf Comics.
Top Shelf Comic.
Yes.
Yes, my friend from Top Shelf Comics. And it's true that in the same spirit of what they're doing, which is creating comics and collectors' value around public domain characters, and in their case, it's Steamboat Willie.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm doing something in that same spirit with Tintin.
Oh, okay.
The difference is that Tintin is only public domain in the United States and in the United States only,
Right.
which means that I cannot sell my book anywhere else on the planet. And that triggered a lot of curiosity, a lot of scrutiny, and a lot of frustration. And I get messages every day saying, like, how come I can't buy your book? I want to buy your book, but I can't, because if I do, I'm exposing myself to very costly lawsuits with the licensor, the people who have taken over from the creator, Hergé, that the creator after his death, and the estate is really trigger happy when it comes to lawsuits. So this is, and also it's been 40 plus years since the creator died, and there was no new Tintin adventure. Mine is the first one.
Right.
So imagine the pressure.
People can't get it in England, so
Or Europe at all.
They can't. They can't get it in England. And that's the funny thing, is that of all the countries that have seen Tintin over the past 95 years, the United States is where the characters are the least known.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a double, triple challenge for me. But I'm pretty serene. I'm pretty confident that we're going to pull it off. I have a good team. We're doing it. I'm doing it with Stéphane Roux, who's also another Frenchman like me, and Moritat, who he's not a Frenchman. He's an American person, but he's a Francophile. So we kind of understand. We know the universe. We know the characters very well, and we know how to build it in a way that is not going to be offensive and will not respect neither the fans or the creators, because I'm very much about creators and creators' rights. That's one of the things that I really love to talk about, and I'm very invested in. And so it's very important that we respect what this creator has built, even though he said that he never wanted another person to take over after him. But I'm like, okay, well, this is what it is. This is not fan fiction. We're creating something.
Right. Now, why Tintin in particular? I mean, I've done my homework. I'm not for this, but I've read some Tintin stuff way way back when. And I remember particularly here in America, Steven Spielberg had a film that
Yes,
was released
he did a
based on the
movie about
character.
12 years ago or something.
Yeah, why Tintin in particular?
Why not Tintin? That's the real question.
Yeah.
Why not Tintin? The thing is, I did not plan on doing it until probably December 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it was completely out of my radar. And I'm doing a lot of things, like as a creator, as a publisher, as a freelancer. I'm doing a lot of commissions and stuff. So I didn't need that on top of everything that I'm developing already.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I knew that this character was public domain in the United States from January 1st,
mm-hmm.
an idea popped in my brain. And, traders sometimes are like dogs, can't let go.
Yeah.
They have that bone,
mm-hmm.
and they will not let go. And my mind wouldn't let me breathe. It was like idea after idea after idea after idea, up to the point where I was having a conversation with Stefano, precisely, and I started talking about the project, and he said, like, you know what, we should do it. And there we go.
Oh. Now, did you grow up reading Tintin comics?
So that's very interesting because I think everyone in France reads Tintin and Asterix. They're like the two big franchises,
mm-hmm.
like every household has or so.
Yeah.
But I never liked them.
Uh-huh.
They were, when I was growing up, they felt very bland and flat to me,
mm-hmm. especially
after I discovered American comics. So all my heart belonged to American comics and then manga. Mm. And so I kind of like grew up, and especially in my teenage years, with kind of a disdain for French comics.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the paradox. I've been living in the United States for 10 years. And since I've been here, I rediscovered French comics up to the point where I now enjoy them. Mm-hmm. I publish them. I translate them. Mm-hmm. And I guess they grew on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I realized that because I know American comics very well, because that has been my playground for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I know French comics a little less, but more and more with the years. Maybe I'm the bridge. Yeah. Maybe I'm the bridge, because that's the thing that kind of like struck me, is that I'm probably, anyone in the chat corrects me if I'm wrong, but I think that I'm the only publisher of graphic novels that is French and that is based in the United States.
It's a probably good guess. Yeah,
I would think so.
I think I am. Mm-hmm. And so it puts me in a position where I can bring stuff that I think is high quality, and say, okay, that can work because I know the American market well. Mm-hmm. And kind of like be this crossover between universes, because there's something that a lot of American readers and a lot of French readers don't know about the other type of comics.
Yeah.
And everyone has preconceived ideas. Like, you ask American readers about French comics, they will tell you something. And you ask French people about American comics, they will tell you something. Mm-hmm. And they think they're right. Mm-hmm. Well, they're not.
Yeah.
The main difference is that French comics lead with art, mm-hmm. whereas American comics lead with story.
Mm-hmm. Good.
You need a good story to be hooked, then you take a look at the art.
Yeah. Right.
In France, you need a good art to be hooked, then you take a look at the story.
Right.
When you understand that, you understand that there are a number of books that can be that crossover, that can make everyone happy.
Yeah.
And these are some of the books that we publish at Fair Square Graphics. We're not the only ones. I mean, other American publishers are doing French graphic novels translated in English. Mm-hmm. But we're the only ones doing it knowing 100% what the original version was, because I can read them in my first language.
Right. Yeah. No, I was going to bring up Fair Square Graphics next. When I saw you at Comics Con, I bought from you a copy of Meshuggah, a graphic novel that takes place in Denmark in, I want to say
1905.
1905, right? 1905,
Yeah.
and it's about a series of murders in the Jewish ghetto of Denmark.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it seems to, through some mystical and sort of supernatural elements, hint at the approach of the Holocaust. And it is
Pre-Holocaust. Holocaust was like 40 years later, but
right. But there's like sort of hints near the end that's the vision.
well, that's anti-Semitism to you.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
It didn't start in 1939.
Right, exactly.
It's been there for like 3,000 years.
Right.
So
Yeah, but there's some images at the end of the book that looks like piles of corpses, like you see from pictures of the concentration camps.
Yes.
And it's such a great story. And I was looking through your catalog of Fair Square graphics, which everyone should definitely check out the website, because the books you're putting out are just they're beautiful collections.
Thank you very much.
It's very high quality stuff for independent publishers.
Yeah, we deal a lot of independent publishers, and the quality of your stuff was we had to look twice to see that you were independent. That's how good the quality.
Yeah.
Well,
the cover
that's a very interesting thing you're saying, and thank you very much, because that really makes me happy. We're boxing above our weight.
Yeah.
Like, people have to remember that I come from a very professional background. I've been in publishing since 1991.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is an atmosphere. This is a mood. I know how the big companies work. I work there. Yeah. I know how to develop their books. I know how to design their books. I'm a designer by trade. Mm-hmm. So I know I design all the books myself. Yeah. And I oversee production, and I'm like very anal about paper choices, about cover choices, about how they feel. Like, comics are a sensory experience. That's why I don't like digital comics.
Me neither.
This is another debate, but I like print comics. Comics are a sensory experience. If you touch them, if you feel them, you will treasure them. And you will read them in a way that will make you not just happy, but make like your whole chemistry will be changed. Like, I'm not even joking. Your whole chemistry will be changed.
I agree 100% with you.
Because when you read comics, you smell them, you feel them, and then you get into the story. And if you like what you read, you will want to share them.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that cover of Intertwined is just
of the graphic novel.
It's out of this world.
It looks like a beautiful. That's it.
Yeah.
It looks like a beautiful leather-bound book, and it's just so well done with the gold.
And I think no one in our no other publisher of our size is doing gold foiled on covers.
Oh no.
Soft touch and a flex case, which is the flex case is something that I took from Europe.
Yeah.
Because no one or so is doing flex case here. It's either hardcover or softcover.
Yeah.
The flex case is kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
It has the premium feel of a hardcover, but it has the flexibility, for lack of a better term, of the hardcover, and it looks more premium than it actually is. I felt it was the perfect representation of what I wanted for that book. Yeah,
and your stuff is up there with any other comic publisher.
I know, and unfortunately, we don't have the brand recognition. Yeah. We don't have, like, a lot of retailers are not even considering our books, because it's the same thing. Unless they see it, they don't understand.
Right. Yeah, I could see that.
But are they in comic shops right now? Are there comic shops that carry your books?
Some of them are. Some of them, and we've been distributed by previews by Diamond since 2021. Yeah, so we've been there every month. But the funny thing is that we're doing a lot of shows. We're doing a lot of conventions, about 25 to 30 a year. Mm-hmm. And almost every show, you have a retailer that pops by, say, like, wait, I want to take a look at this. Yeah. Look at the books and like, are you distributed anywhere? Like, can we order your books? I said, yeah, we've been in Diamond's catalog for 4 years. They're like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
well, because probably you were very busy.
Yeah.
And there are like 300 comics a week, so it's very hard for you to see a new publisher, which I understand.
Sure.
But at the same time, you're also so busy that you're ordering the same things every month, and you don't have a lot of brain space take a look at other things, which I also understand. And the thing is, Fair Square Graphics is just me. Like a little bit of my wife, Crystal, that helps me a little bit, like for the shows, and she's also a writer, and she's now doing a lot more social media stuff. But everything else, like production and editing and lettering, design, it's all me. So we're understaffed, and we're doing our best to reach out to retailers, but it's very complicated. And it's not just the only channel, because there's also the bookstores, the libraries, we're trying to cater to every channel, but we're very limited in what we can do, because we don't have, and it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, if we don't publicize ourselves, we don't sell more. If we don't sell more, we don't publicize ourselves. So the only thing, like, we're trying to reach out to retailers, but it's true that.
But you're an in-person guy. You have to be in person. You and even us, when we were at Comics Con, was a very small convention, as you know. Your stuff really stood out, and we've seen a lot of indie comic book creators over the years.
Many.
And your stuff, if you get it in front of people, that's when, like you said, the guy what retail walks by and goes, "Holy crap, what is this?" That's we did. Well, we did that.
Let me tell you a funny story about this book. Okay, so this book, the orders through Diamond are ridiculous. Not even 200 copies. It's the number one book selling at conventions, and it's a $40 book. It's 300 pages. It's very heavy, full color, very premium, as you can see. It's the number one selling book, and it's the most expensive. Why? Because people who see it, like, I want that.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't even have to pitch.
No, you don't.
I don't even have to pitch.
You had people coming over to you because of the quality of the books. We saw it.
Exactly. It's a showstopper. Sure.
I'm sorry. Can you just really quick, before we lose the pace here of this, can you tell about what the sort of idea behind Fair Square is? Because I was reading on the site that there's a sort of a mission statement for this publishing company.
Yes.
So it's not just like comics we like.
Right.
There's something there.
No.
You have a good mission statement.
Yeah, we have two main pillars at Fair Square Graphics. Number one, we're the only immigrant, family, and minority-owned publisher of graphic novels. That's number one, and there's no other publisher like us.
Right.
Number two, we're very invested in creators' rights, and we design a system with color codes. And if you see intertwined, for example, here as a green logo, but I could show you Noir the New Black here, which is our bestseller ever. Noir the New Black has a purple logo, and Red Flower here, which is not even in stores yet. We got the copies yesterday. It will be in stores mid-February. It has a blue logo right here. Okay, so blue is for the titles that we license from other publishers all across the world. Purple is for full creator owned, and green is for the IPs that we own.
Okay.
And we're putting our mouth where our money is, and vice versa, by showing retailers, creators, public, who we exactly are. I always tell people, I don't want a chunk of your IP if you're going to work with us, because I have mine, and I think they're okay. So why would I own anything you own? I don't need to own your house. I don't need to own a piece of your property. I just want to be a good partner. And as long as the partnership makes sense financially for both parties, and we'll keep doing it. If it doesn't, then we'll stop and we'll focus on other things. But so far, so good. Like, in the 5 years the company's been around, we've published over 45 titles, and we keep adding in every genre. That's the other thing. We're also a mini mainstream publisher.
Yeah.
Because we have all types of books, all sizes. We have manga. We have American style. We have European style. We're doing 7x10. We're doing 5x8. We're doing very, very different stuff. But they have a sense of belonging because they are selected, curated, and designed by the same person.
Yeah. And they're like I said, they're all. I mean, I've been looking at the website. There's a bunch of stuff on there that I'm going to order.
Yeah, that's quality.
That I really want to order.
you.
Especially, I was really looking.
I wish more people. I wish more people knew what we were doing, and again, we're going to increase our presence at shows. This year, we're going to go to shows where we've never been, like in Calgary, Canada. We're going to go to where do we go this year that we've never been before? Indianapolis, Kansas City. I mean, we're really trying to go where we've never been.
Yeah.
And last year was already like we did 29 shows, and
Wow.
and it was we were everywhere. So
You do the big two. You do San Diego and New York also.
never San Diego. I mean, we did San Diego when we were living in California. I was living in California for 5 years. So when we were in California, I did San Diego, but San Diego is not. It makes no sense when you live in New York.
Right.
Because
The money
of the costs, right?
Yeah. That's why I've never been there.
Getting a booth there is already like $2,000-$3,000.
Yeah.
How many copies can you sell? And then you have to add $2,500 for hotel, and then $1,200 for tickets. It's impossible to break even. Like we're not doing shows to lose money. We're
Right.
doing shows to make money.
Right.
Like I refuse to consider comics in any form as a loss leader.
Yeah.
And you're in Queens now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, are New York City based?
Yeah. You are in New York City.
Yeah. And
There are nuances.
so I want to back up a little bit and let's talk about French comics for just a second.
Yeah, growing up in France, we've interviewed a number of people from different parts of the world, and it's very interesting to us to hear how you grew up getting your comics and reading your comics and what the scene was like in France.
And you said you were first hooked really on American comics, right?
No, he said
No, but he said he didn't like
comics.
French comics.
But he first read
French comics first.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing that is accessible to you.
Sure.
And where are you buying them? Like in France at the time you're growing up, where are comics available?
I mean, libraries, bookstores, supermarkets.
Yeah.
Newsstands.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of
So
like
you have-
when you were little.
Before
But
comic
this
shops
is where
came
it's
around.
interesting.
Mm.
When I was growing up, and I would say until the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
American comics were only in newsstands. They were not in bookstores. They were not in libraries.
But do you have
The
comic
only
shops?
way to-
Do you have any kind of like what we have?
yeah, there are comic shops, but they were never like big. There are probably 100 comic shops, maybe less now.
Mm.
But there are not that many comic shops.
Okay.
Like comic shops, there are specialty shops
Right.
just for American and Japanese comics. There are not that many.
Right.
And it's only in the big cities.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Paris. So for me,
Okay.
it was not hard to access everything. I had really access to everything. But for other people, it's a little more tricky. And especially before the internet,
Right.
it was difficult to access everything. So the first comics that I read were French, but I was never really into that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only when I started discovering American comics that my brain popped.
So what do your
My
American
heart
comics look
cracked
like?
open.
What do they look like in France? Because we've talked to people from Australia, people from England, and their comics look very different than what we had here at the time.
Right. So there were different, different formats.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The most popular was a magazine called Strange. That was only Marvel.
Okay.
You had 4 issues compiled in a magazine, square bound.
It's kind of like the English, in a way.
And Strange for the kids of my generation, it was like the comic book magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And in there you had Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Avengers, Robin, Space Knight, and he was kind of rotating, Daredevil.
Yeah.
And he was kind of rotating. And then at the time you had 2 other publishers. I mean, that was a publisher called Lug that was based in Lyon. And you had 2 other publishers that were in the north of France. One was called Artima, and they were in Lille. And they were doing mostly DC, but they were not doing a really good job because they were publishing not in order. So
Right.
it was like weird to like sometimes you have an issue and it's different from what you read the month before, whatever. And there was another one in Paris called Sage Edition, where they were publishing Superman and Batman, but in a weird way where you had one page in color, one page in black and white.
Oh,
Yeah.
So yeah, and you had also you had oversized, but never hardcovers. It was always soft covers because they were only in newsstands.
Right.
And so to be in newsstands, they had to be affordable. They had to be easy to manipulate for the people working in the newsstands, and they had to sell quickly. So you also had pocket size, just like in Italy, black and white, 300 pages, pocket size for a few bucks. So there was a lot of diverse formats, and it really depended on how much allowance or change money I had that week.
Yeah.
It was really that.
Right.
It happens that the first one that I really bought with my own money were Conan the Barbarian, and that was full color, oversized.
Yeah.
I remember it was 12 francs. That was a lot of money back in the day.
Yeah.
And I bought a bunch of pockets, small size, because they were 5 francs. You had 300 pages. So that was and it was a bunch of Flash and Green Lantern and
That's a bargain.
Doom Patrol. And yeah.
what was your favorite?
But then when I was around 11, I started, I focused on Marvel, and it was Special Strange, which was for the X-Men.
Right.
And then they had 2 or 3 other titles, but I ended up covering everything. And after, when I was 16 and my English was really better, I started buying them in English at specialty stores, at comic shops in Paris.
Okay. And they were the same comics that we get here.
Yeah, that were the American editions that were imported.
That interesting, because no one else has mentioned American imports.
No.
That we've talked to. Everyone had their comic from...
but also because it's kind of rare right now. Even in Paris, if you go to a comic store in Paris, a specialty store in Paris, you will see mostly French versions, French translations, because they're way cheaper.
Yeah. Okay.
Because importing costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get into the mechanics of how they import comics and going through Diamond UK and blah blah blah. Right. But it's more expensive. And so when you have 2 or 3 times the amount of pages in French with a local publisher, in the case of Marvel, that would be Panini. In the case of DC, that would be Urban Comics. And it's a better proposition. It's a better deal. So more people are reading it in French. And also now that American comics are in bookstores also, and this is where most people buy them. They're now hardcover. They have they're super beautiful. They have shiny covers. So the quality is better.
Like the trade paperbacks we get.
Yeah.
When they
come like the deluxe premium. But they're accessible.
Okay.
Yeah. So after that, you're buying comics, and when do you decide that at some point you want to be a comic book creator?
Yeah, what's the impetus there?
Yeah.
What's the thing what we usually ask people is, do you remember the comic you read that made you think,
want to be?
I'd like to do this?
Yeah.
So I've always been interested in a few things, obsessed by a few things. And comics were one of them. But I was interested in press. I always loved magazines and press. Yeah. Print press. There was no internet press back in the day.
Yeah.
That's how old I am. So press, comics, and R&B music. Okay. Thing is, I was living in France, and it was hard for me to work in R&B music that doesn't really exist.
You're very far from Detroit.
Very far, exactly. Very far from everything that makes sense. Okay, so it was very impossible for me to contemplate a career in American R&B music as an executive. Yeah, but actually, it's at the time when I entered the workforce. It was the early '90s, and CDs were there. And then you had CD-ROM, and the music industry went down. Yeah. So comics, okay, press, okay. So I started working in publishing, then in the press, then I was in the middle. There was an economic crisis in the mid-90s in France, so it was hard for me to find work. So I went to work for a publicity and marketing and communications company.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing like all sorts of designs for banks and like public services and very like corporate companies. And it was very boring, but I did that for 3 years because, I had very little kids in the family. And so I needed to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But my first wife, she was a journalist already. And so I remember vividly that early 1998, it was a Saturday, it was in January of 1998. I was reading Spider-Man on the floor because we had a wooden floor and I thought it was very comfortable to read my Spider-Man on Saturday afternoon. I was reading Spider-Man and then I put it down and I tell my wife, how come there's no real news magazine about American comics?
Uh-huh.
She was in the kitchen today. Well, you have to do it then.
Mm-hmm.
and I did it. And so I did it, and I was helped a lot because my grandmother, she was a Holocaust survivor, and unfortunately for her, she had to go through all that stuff. But when she came back, the French government gave her the pension of a veteran. Mm. And she arrived at this point in her life where she was disabled. She was living in a hospital. Mm. And she said to me, look, I have a little money for all my grandchildren. And we were 6. Mm. I have a little money for all my grandchildren. But I don't want the state to take all the money in taxes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give it to you while I'm alive so that A, you can have most of the money. Mm-hmm. And B, I can see how you're spending it. And I was like, cool. And then I had enough to create my first company and start this comic book magazine called Comic Box. Mm-hmm. And we launched the first issue in July 1998 in newsstands with a print run of 30,000 copies.
Wow. Whoa.
And we sold over 10,000. Which was not bad at all.
Yeah. No, that's really good for a new magazine. It's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then that was, I would say the rest is history because we didn't know anything. We were far, but we knew that we wanted to do not a fan magazine. We wanted to do a professional news magazine with 5 interviews per issue, with like news, with like in-depth articles. And Comic Box was that. As imperfect as the first issues were, we learned on the fly, Right. We learned on the fly. We were a small team of 4. And the magazine was monthly for 3 years. Then the company went bankrupt. That's a long story. I'm not going to get into that.
Right.
But basically, we were killed by competition.
Right.
And we brought it back a few years later. And then the magazine was bi-monthly. And it remained bi-monthly until it finally stopped in 2017.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
So there's like 120 issues that were published, and it spans over 20 years. Mm-hmm. So that's the legacy of Comic Box that I started.
That's amazing.
Now,
great.
In 2006, I was in London because I had a meeting with Titan Comics. I'm sure you know who Titan Comics are, right?
I've heard of them.
They do Doctor Who stuff. Okay. Yeah, I know Titan Comics.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Titan is a company that stemmed from Forbidden Planet. It's a chain of retailers.
Right. Yes.
I've been there.
Exactly. And it's a big group. And they were doing licensed magazine and all. At that time, I was not just doing Comic Box. I was also doing licensed magazines for kids. Mm-hmm. And so I was producing for a third party, the Panini Group, I was producing a bunch of magazines, one being the Batman Kids magazine.
Okay.
And so the person in charge of licensing at DC, who became a friend, said, you know what? You should meet with the British because they're doing their magazine, you're doing your magazine. I think you could find synergies to work together. which would save costs and make me happy. So they took the meeting. I took my train to London from Paris. It's only 2 hours away. It's not far.
Yeah.
I took my train to London. I go to London, but before I hit the lunch meeting with Titan, I go and spend breakfast with David Hine, writer David Hine.
Mm-hmm.
And that very morning, I get an idea that would change the course of my life called Spider-Man Noir.
Right.
And I pitched the idea to Dave, and he hates it. Then 24 hours later, he reverses, comes back and say, "No, I love it, but we need to change it." And then we.
So you created Spider-Man Noir. Spider-Man Noir is your idea.
It was my original idea, and it was developed with Dave Hine. Yes, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's both our baby. Like what I brought and what Dave brought, I could make you a list of what I brought and what Dave brought. It doesn't really matter. The finished product, which is the first miniseries of 4, the second miniseries of 4, Edge of Spider-Verse #1, and the little thing that we did in 2018. That's 9 issues. That's us.
Yeah, right.
That's us. And that's the only thing that I would actually look at and say, I'm very proud of this. Whatever happened after.
Yeah, you weren't.
He's the character in the Spider-Verse, right? Into the Spider-Verse is
in the movies.
Spider-Man Noir, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nicolas Cage?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not a happy face. You didn't get paid for that? Is that
let's say that no, I didn't get paid. Well, first I did not get paid much for Spider-Man Noir.
Right.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, this is something that people need to know. When you sign a contract with a corporation under a work for hire agreement, and that character, Spider-Man, existed before my version of Spider-Man. So my Spider-Man is a derivative.
Yeah.
If it's a derivative, that means that I get no rights whatsoever to anything. And none of the people who created Spider people that were originated before had any right in anything.
Yeah.
Ask Robbie Rodriguez what he thinks about that.
Right.
Same thing.
Yeah.
None of us had anything. I think Brian Bendis is a little different because he created Miles Morales.
Right.
But I did not create Peter Parker.
Right.
So Peter Parker was there before me. So I created a derivative, another version. Hence, I don't have any rights.
Okay.
And the version that appears in the animated movies, they have the same name, but it's a completely different character.
Right.
If you read Spider-Man Noir, you know that version is not kid-friendly at all.
Yeah.
It's a very hardcore, dark version where people get eaten alive.
Yeah.
So they did something different. It has the same name. It vaguely looks like the character that I created.
Yeah.
I'll never get over that stupid hat.
That's right. He doesn't.
And that's it. And we'll leave it there. Like this is when you create a character for them, you're a surrogate parent.
Right.
This is not my creation.
Sure.
This is a character that I created, nurtured, gave to the world with Dave. And with Carmine Di Giandomenico, who drew it, and Marco Georgievich, who designed the characters from our notes. But apart from that, this is Marvel's show.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Well,
there's nothing to add.
Yeah, we always see that with creators and how the big two operate. It seems to me that these days...
You mean the small two?
It seems to me that people these days dip into DC and Marvel to make a couple of dollars and then go back out to do their creator-owned stuff.
Right.
And it's sort of like a revenue stream for writers and artists who want to go on and use that for something else.
No. Well, not in my case. Not in my case.
Right.
In my case, it was more... Once I did Spider-Man, I understood very quickly that no one cared about my ass. And if I wanted to stay in this world and be relevant in that world, I had to fight like Rocky Balboa in the gutter fight to get back there and prove my worth, prove my relevancy, and prove that I had what it takes to be in that world. Because remember one thing, maybe you didn't put two and two together, but when I did Spider-Man Noir, I was living in France.
Yeah.
I was miles away from my market.
Right.
And that's what made the whole difference. Because when I was only the second French person to ever write Spider-Man in history.
Really?
First one being Jean-Marc L'Officier, who did it in the 80s, and he ended up marrying his editor. So
that can't hurt.
But that can't hurt. Yes. But you see what I mean? Like I was only the second person to do that. Yeah. And so it was a really weird thing. And when we pitched Spider-Man Noir, Marvel didn't do any other universes. They didn't do any Elseworlds. There was no Spider-Verse. There was nothing like that. Right. It was 2007. Nothing like that. So it was really, we were kind of like caught in a web, no pun intended, of events. And that kind of thing spun out of control. Like I remember vividly that when we pitched it as a 5-issue series. And Marvel said, no, we don't have the budget to have 4. And then I was paid $20 a page.
$20 a page? That's it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And the royalties that you get for those kind of things is 0.05% of sales of single issues and trade paperbacks in the United States.
Oof. Only in the United States?
Yeah. No, you don't. You're not paid internationally.
That's rough.
Oh,
yeah.
You don't get any money on anything else. Yeah. Nothing. And don't start me on the availability of these things. Spider-Man Noir has been out of print for 7 years. It's constantly out of print. It's constantly out of print, the book. Yeah.
Which is weird because the character's becoming so popular now. You would think that they would re-put it. They put it out within the last 7 years. It's become more well-known than it ever was before.
Well, so in 2019, I heard, and I have on good authority, that when Into the Spider-Verse came out, the people at Marvel in New York, the editorial team at Marvel, didn't believe in it. They didn't think that Sony could pull it off. Right. So it came as a surprise that it was as successful and good as it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they started rushing out reprints that came in April or May of 2019, the time they needed to reprint the thing. So from that moment on, I think there was like 3 or 4 printing of the graphic novel that has all my work.
Right. Yeah.
But then it was out of print again, and it still is. That's right. And then they started developing their own Spider-Man Noir, which is very different from the one that I created.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like they killed mine in Spider-Geddon.
Okay.
And then they brought him back in a different fashion. And so now it's another Spider-Man Noir. Apart from the name, there's nothing in common.
Right.
No. Spider-Man Noir is not a detective. Spider-Man Noir is a social justice warrior. And that's how it was designed by Dave and myself.
Yeah.
Anyhow, too much talk about this.
Do you get checks?
Too much talk.
Just one more question. Do you get checks from Marvel still? Do you get like anything from them currently?
I get royalties every year. Okay. Twice a year I get a wire transfer, but it's something between $5 and $100.
Okay. That's sad. But in all honesty, the reason why we're here, and we probably should have mentioned this earlier, is we did an interview with Will at Top Shelf Comics, and Will said how great you are. So shortly after that interview, we were like, you know what? Let's reach out to Fabrice and see if he wants to be on our show, and you said yes, which is very nice. What is your relationship with Top Shelf Comics? And he speaks very highly of you and your.
So that's the funny thing. So I met him last year, 2024, in Dallas. I was tabling, and he comes to my table, and it says he didn't know who I was, and it says in very little on my banner that I'm the co-creator of Spider-Man Noir, because I don't want people to actually make a fuss about it, and I want people to know that I've written or drawn multiple comics since then, and I don't want to be that. I'm not a one-trick pony. Sure. I have 6 creator-owned out there, and I've published 45 titles in the past 5 years. I also work for Humanoids. I work for Heavy Metal. I work for plenty of other publishers. So there's no way I'm going to let myself put in a very tiny box called Spider-Man Noir.
Oh, of course. Right.
You understand that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Plus, I write, I draw, I design, I letter, I translate, I publish, I edit. I'm doing it all. So I feel it's unfair. Just he's the Spider-Man Noir guy. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we started a conversation, and he asked me to draw Steamboat Willie as Spider-Man Noir.
Okay.
And every comic book creator is a mercenary. So you pay me, I'll sing and dance. Yeah. So he pays me, I draw. So I draw. I say, come back tomorrow. Comes back. He likes what he sees. And we start a conversation. And we have a huge disagreement because he says to me, you should bank on Spider-Man Noir. And I said, let me stop you right there. I tried. It didn't work.
Yeah.
All people are interested in is Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Next year, they forget who I am.
Right.
And it's
funny.
Every time.
He told us you were the Spider-Man Noir guy. That's how he's like, Fabrice, the Spider-Man Noir guy. That's how he sold us on you.
Yeah, because he knew that if you said, he's the guy who did Intertwine, who did Lady Bird, who did, you're like, what? What is that?
No, see, but no, we wouldn't have been, because us personally, we love talking to independent comics.
Yeah, we like independent comics a lot.
We love talking to that.
Long story short, he offers me to create more stuff for them. Right. Mm-hmm. Then one thing leading to another, like we did this one.
Yep.
Which is another Steamboat Willie as Spider-Man Noir.
Right.
And we did this one too. And after I did these 2, he said, okay, maybe I have something else for you. And then he puts me on the cover of an Image book called Dead Eyes, Empty Frames. That's a Jerry Duggan comic.
Yeah, one of
his variants for that.
One of the variants for him, one of his top shelf.
One of the variants, exactly. One of the variants for him. Then Terminator. I did a Terminator. I pitched a Terminator cover that was immediately accepted. Mm-hmm. And then Transformers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I did a Transformers cover. So we have this kind of ongoing thing going on. And I really love working with them because even though they're in the fan business, and I'm in the publishing business, which is very different. Mm-hmm. It is fun. They're fun guys. They're honest. I really like working with them. We disagree on stuff, but that doesn't prevent us from loving each other and doing stuff together. And for me, it's kind of like the recreational stuff. It's the stuff that is not heavy. Because I love to draw. It's great for me. It improves my focus. And I can draw stuff like without thinking of, okay, did I send that book to print? Did I send this to correction? Like, did I talk to this author? Mm-hmm. No, it's just I'm just turning off the publisher brain, and I just draw. And
it's a good relationship. Good. It works out for you. Works out for him.
Exactly. So I don't mind anything. And I mean, every time they call and say, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, throw me a challenge."
Right.
Because again, it's the same thing. Is why do you want to be put in a box when you can do all these things?
Right. Why not?
Right. Sure.
And when I go to conventions and people are like, I have this sketch cover. What do you want to draw? I said, what do you want to get?
Spider-Man Noir. That's what everybody tries.
Well, you know what? If you want Spider-Man Noir, I'm fine with it. You're going to pay double. That's it.
What the picture behind you is that your art behind you, the Captain America?
No, that's Travis Charest. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
He gifted that to me in 2001. You see, that's my name here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful.
That's really nice.
Yeah, I'm holding on to it. Like a lot of people, I have asked if I was selling it, and I said a Travis Charest, how rare it is. this remains on my wall. Like, yeah. But
As
then
it should.
I have a David Mack here. I have a Gary Frank over there. I have very few pieces of original art,
Right.
because I never have the money, and those that I have are the ones that have been gifted by creators as a thank you. Because again, when I was a journalist for a long time. I invited creators to France. So I created relationships with a lot of people, which made me kind of like a valuable asset when I was hired by Humanoids in 2017, when they were created their American Comics initiative. I mean, one of their American Comics initiative, because they did a few, and same for heavy metal, and even for myself, like because I know some people and I've been around for a long time, we can do either for titles like No Future here, that is one of my new creator-owned titles, or Mutiny Black Girl Magic, or even Intertwine, where if you like at Intertwine, you have pinups from very, very renowned artists. Like you have Olivier Coipel.
There's my code.
I mean, that is me. That is actually me.
That's you. That's
I
why
drew that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Nick Bradshaw and Gerald Perel, there are plenty of creators that work. Patrick Zercher, a lot of creators work with me on those series. It's because of relationships. It's because I've known these people for a long time.
Right.
How do you think we could try to make the kind of comics you sell at Fair Square? How do we get those more into people's hands, other than sort of like the regular marketing stuff? What do you think people need to understand about them in order to be really going after them?
Because it's a comic that, like we said earlier, you really need to see what you're doing. And when people see what you're doing, it really blows away other independent companies that we've come across away. The fact that it's, everything you're saying is positive about what your company is doing. How do you get retailers to buy them? How do you get them in the hands of, we would never have known about you if we didn't talk to Will.
Right.
I'm not going to lie. This is very complicated. And this is very complicated for multiple reasons. The one is that there's a lot of white noise.
Right.
There's also this very strange effect in our industry where the things that get the most attention are the things that are the least economically viable, meaning single issues. I don't do single issues. I refuse.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, that's probably what is saving our asses while our distributor Diamond is going through a rough time.
Well, how does that affect you right now? How is Diamond, that big Diamond thing,
bankruptcy
has to hurt you?
It hurts us because we have about 3 or 4 weeks worth of sales that will never be paid. But it doesn't hurt us to the point where it's a problem.
Right.
Like, yes, it's a cash flow issue right now.
Right.
But we understood 2 years ago, when sales in stores started to go down, we understood that it was a combination of factors. Number one, too many publishers. Number two, too many titles looking like each other. What we're doing, no one else is doing.
Right.
Like you were mentioning Meshuggah. That's a very interesting example.
Yeah.
You took it because you're a horror fan.
Yes. Yep.
I fucking hate horror comics. I only picked that title because it was a Jewish story that was out of context.
Yeah.
And it happened to be a horror book. But there's no other horror book. There's no superhero book at my company.
No.
Yeah.
Some people will argue that Intertwine is a superhero book. It is not. It is not. It's not a superhero book. It's a book about resilience. But you don't have those families of titles. There's another thing. Like, if you look at a Fair Square Graphics title, look at the spine.
Yeah.
We have a signature system where you can read a one-line pitch. No one else is doing that.
Yes.
We trademarked it. Because we feel like the in-store experience should be different.
Mm-hmm.
That's the paradox. A lot of stores are overlooking our books because they don't get it. But the public never lies.
Yeah.
You know, I remember in the early 2000s, I was interviewing Joe Quesada. Marvel was in bankruptcy back then.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And he said to me something that I will never forget. He said, you put a giant truck full of Pokemon in the streets. Everyone will absolutely ransack that.
Yeah.
You put a full truck of Spider-Man comics, no one cares. At the time.
It's true.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
He was right.
Mm.
It's only a question of being at the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about going into publishing, and that's something that I very much want to stress out.
Mm.
You have to play the long game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right.
Like if you think you're going to go make a splash move, sell millions of copies with your number one, and then collapse in a year, we've seen that scenario.
Yep.
How many comic book companies have died in the past 30 years?
A lot.
You want to name them?
Yeah.
Because we can. You need 2 or 3 shows.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to be that. I understood that quantity is not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be Penguin Random House.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be Simon and Schuster.
Right.
I don't want to be DC.
Yeah.
I want to be me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to choose an example of a company that I want to be, I want to be BMW. I want to be Taschen. I want to be smaller company with high value, high quality, and where people buy it. It's a niche.
Mm-hmm.
But my model is actually another French type of companies. It's high fashion.
Yeah.
If you look at luxury, there's never a crisis in luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the price doesn't matter.
Right.
What was I telling you earlier? My biggest seller right now is Intertwined. That is a $40 book.
Yeah. Right.
When I said that, people were like, you're crazy. You're never going to sell a $40 book. I said, watch me.
Yeah.
Because when people see it, price doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you want an action figure that is $200, you know it's not reasonable, but you want it.
Right.
You're going to buy it. If you want a Star Wars rare action figure from 1978,
Yeah.
and you know you can't find that fucking action figure from Kenner with Kenner written on the box and not Hasbro,
Yeah.
you will buy it for $500, even if there's no box.
That's right. I will.
Consider that our books are like that.
Yes, they are. That's a great analogy.
They are meant to be appreciated, read, shared, treasured.
Mm-hmm. I actually already sent my copy of Meshuggah over to a friend of mine who wanted to read it as soon as she saw it on the feed.
So you see, you're proving my point.
Yes.
And the thing is, yes, I would welcome more sales. I'm not going to lie. We're underfunded. Mm-hmm. We're looking for partners. We're looking for people to help us. We're a small company. And honestly, this is exhausting to be in one-man band. I would love to have someone to help me. And to have someone to help me, we would need to get to a different level.
Right. Yeah.
But I also realized that we're making more money going to conventions and doing Kickstarters than selling our book through Diamond.
Right.
Diamond is only 40%, 38% exactly of our business.
Wow.
And it's probably going to be 20% of our business in 25.
Yeah.
So what do you have?
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. What conventions you have coming up? You said you're doing a lot of conventions. So in the next couple of weeks, so if people are who are listening to this, find you.
Let's say that the real convention season really restarts February 15th. Yeah. We have Cosmic Con in New York. That will be the first of the season. Then we're going to Emerald City in Seattle. We're going to Planet Comic Con Kansas City, Indianapolis Comic Con. We have another con late March in New York. Then we go to Awesome Con in Washington, D.C. Then we go to Calgary, Brooklyn Independent Showcase, Dallas, Atlanta, MomoCon,
So you're
Philadelphia, Fan Expo, Denver, ALA for the librarians.
right.
We have a whole thing mapped out.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It's funny you
But
the librarian.
we're going there because that's the only way we can survive.
That's a big one.
The librarians, to me, when I look at your books, I think that would be one of the natural places for your books too, would be libraries.
Right. So librarians are a very different breed of buyers.
Yeah.
Because they don't buy as quickly as retailers.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the public. Like it takes a long time for them to get the budget. And when they get the budget, to get the authorization, the clearance that the book has been cleared and they think that it's not a non-safe for work, it's cool for what they want to convey, then it takes more time. And more often than not, because we're a small publisher, when they want to order, the book's sold out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we're not reprinting every book. We're reprinting only the books that have the potential.
Okay. Right.
Now, do you do store appearances too, or no?
We try, but a lot of stores, they first it needs to be in a range where we can go.
Right.
And we did that last year a couple of times, but this takes a lot of time. We had some of our creators last weekend. They were in New Jersey at East Side Mags. And they did pretty well.
Right.
It's a book called To Mr. Sydney, which is about overcoming the death of two parents at once when you're an immigrant and you're like 10,000 miles from your home.
Yeah.
It's a book that it's really home for me. And when the creators pitched it for me, they pitched it through the website, actually, because we accept submissions. They pitched it to the website, and I saw that and I was like, it resonates with my own story. I mean, a little differently. I didn't lose my two parents, but I lost my father when I was 11. So I understand what it is to lose a parent. And so I was going through the emotional journey of the characters, and it reflected, on my own story. And it's a book that I love, but unfortunately, it doesn't sell well in stores because a lot of retailers, they don't know how to sell it. And they don't even put it out. So if they don't put it out, then they don't recommend it. It's really complicated. So they return it,
Right.
which hurts everybody. It hurts them. It hurts us. It hurts the creators. But every time the creators go to a convention, they sell the book.
Right.
Every time we go to a convention, we sell the book.
So that's your route, conventions. Yeah.
They are really nice.
Conventions and crowdfunding. Yeah. These are going to be our main outlets moving forward. I mean, at least for the time being, because first we need to know what's going to happen with Diamond. We don't know.
Yeah.
And I told them that I'd rather hold off and not release any new book. I mean, except Red Flower that I was mentioning because it was already printed.
Yeah.
So it was already in the pipeline. But we had like 12 books that were supposedly coming out this year. But I decided to postpone everything until we know what's going on with Diamond. Because if after they come out of bankruptcy, there's a new owner and that new owner decides that, you know what, those small publishers, we don't care, then why are we going to stay with them?
Yeah.
Or they decide to change some of the parameters of our contract, why would we stay with them?
Right.
Book distribution and comic book distribution in this country is very expensive. It's very expensive. There's very little accountability from a lot of parties. And it's very difficult to make money from it.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
So why would we accept to lose money where we know that we can make money through other channels?
Sure.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So now,
again, it's never about how many books you put outside. It's how much you make per book, because I don't want to sound like an asshole, because I respect retailers and we need retailers to be healthy. But at the end of the day, if I don't have enough money to publish more books next year, and my company collapses because the system is far from being perfect, then I need to take care of myself.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Now, people can go to fairsquaregraphics.com and find the books that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And I'd say I've seen them all in
They
person. They're great. They're great books. If you like graphic,
and not only that, but I would also suggest that people keep an eye on what we're doing through the Kickstarters, because yes, I mentioned The Big Lie, which is the Kickstarter we're doing, but I have to talk about Mutiny Black Girl Magic, which is our other, like, if we have a few IPs that we own that we're extremely proud of and that we want to push. Mutiny Black Girl Magic, that Crystal, my wife, is writing, and I'm doing the covers, and I'm helping as much as I can. But this is a book where the entire creative team is Black women,
Right.
writer, artist, cover artist, editor, everyone. Okay, I'm just giving a hand, and like I'm doing what they say.
Yeah,
but this is very important because you don't have that many books that are like that.
Right. Yeah,
and we wanted to prove a point. And that book is written, and every time we show up with Mutiny Black Girl Magic, we sell a lot. A lot.
Because there's not a lot out there.
There's not a lot out there. And also, again, when we started talking about it, Diamond said, why don't you give us the book? We'll distribute it. I said, no, you don't deserve it.
right.
Because it's a single issue, and right now we want to move at our own pace. We don't want to create a subpar product because people want a new issue every month. So we release an issue every 3 or 4 months, and that's fine.
Yeah,
Because again, we're playing the long game.
sure.
And when we have enough issues, we're going to release a trade. When that trade is going to be released, then it can go to other channels. But so far, so good.
Yeah,
And so we have that. We have No Future. The next issue is for next month on Kickstarter. And the artist, Heather Messias, is actually drawing Captain America right now.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. So we're not working with people who have no credit or no talent.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, I'm sure, like, that's one of the things that I'm really sad about. So this is a cover that Code Fam did for No Future. This is the Virgin variant.
It's a great cover.
No one bought it.
Oh, that's a great cover.
Why didn't no one even
Yeah,
why would no one buy it?
people bought this one. That's cover from Eder Messias. And people bought my cover, which is sold out. But this one, no one bought it.
I don't like virgin covers.
These things happen. What?
I don't like virgin covers, and I know a lot of people that collect comic books don't.
Oh,
like
it
virgin.
also existed in non-virgin cover. Don't worry.
Okay, so non-virgin
I
covers.
had two
Virgin
versions.
covers. That just something about them. It just doesn't look right to me.
I like.
I mean,
I know you do. I don't.
I like him. I don't necessarily like when text gets in the way of the art. You know,
I think it's part of it.
I respect everyone. Everyone has a different taste. That's fine. So that's that. We're going to also give a follow-up to Noir's the New Black. Noir's the New Black, we sold 7,000 copies of it so far.
it's great.
That's a huge deal for an independent publisher.
Yeah.
It's a book that is in almost every library in the United States. We're very proud of that.
That's great.
That's great.
And we packed it. There's 47 Black creators on that. And this book is the gift that keeps giving. So we're going to do a season 2 that starts on Kickstarter this time as issues. The first one, it was a straight to graphic novel, but this time we're going to do issues, which will allow us to have multiple covers. So Noir's the New Black season 2 starts this spring.
Good.
So I said Noir's the New Black. I said, oh yeah, and we're going to do light novels.
Light
You know
levels?
what light novels are?
No.
Okay. So light novels are the bastard child of prose and comics.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have a bit of both,
Right.
plus illustrations, and it creates a unique kind of product where all the scenes that are very visual and emotional are told in a graphic novel form, and the rest is sold in prose.
Yeah. Interesting. That's really.
And The Big Lie, that is now on Kickstarter, is a light novel. But then we're going to have a book that I am creating with Colleen Douglas, who is remember that name because she's a rising star. Colleen Douglas, she's a Afro-Caribbean British writer, and we're doing this book called Shakespeare's Vampires, which is basically Romeo and Juliet as vampires.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
Yeah. and it's
That is great.
drawn by a Brazilian Japanese artist called Lisa,
Okay.
who already worked with us because when I did Lady Bird a couple of years ago, she provided all the covers. So,
I'm looking forward to that. That's really great.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
and we have plenty of other projects, but it's too early.
sounds like it sounds like you never sleep. So,
I never. Oh yeah, you were talking about Jews. Yes, we have a Jewish anthology, an anthology of Jewish diversity, where you have Jews of color, Jews from places where you never imagine. It's called Hyphen, and the book is almost done. It's 13 stories. It's a graphic memoir.
Oh, cool.
So that real stories.
That sounds great.
so my next question is, how can Brian just hand you his check over to you?
Well, he can subscribe. He can subscribe. We were actually joking the other day with Crystal that maybe we should have a subscription and like the book clubs. Like every month you receive a new stuff. You don't know what it's gonna be, but if you like what we do, you trust our curation process.
Not a bad idea. Honestly, not a bad idea.
I like I said, I looked through your catalog online and there wasn't one graphic novel I saw there that I didn't at least go, oh yeah, I definitely would check that out. Like every single one of them has something about it that I'm like, I like, especially Fox in the Brain, which I thought was really
Fox in my Brain.
Yeah.
That book is also a miracle. Like that, and I haven't talked about The Boy Named Rose. A Boy Named Rose, which is our second biggest seller, was nominated for an Eisner Award and a Harvey Award in 2024.
Awesome.
That's great.
This book, it's like intertwined. We put it there, we wait. And people like, I want that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
But yeah, we sold almost 3,000 copies of it. This is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
And A Fox in My Brain is following the same path because it's a book about mental health, but it's not going to bring you down. It's going to be to energize you, to give you hope, to make you understand. And it's very informative. You have tons of information of your condition, of the condition of people that are around you. If you don't know what bipolarity is, then read that and it will explain you in very simple terms. It will give you statistics, but it's done with such humor.
Yeah.
It's the only sad thing.
It's kind
the
of
only sad thing is that the creator, she doesn't want to talk about it. She said to us, like, I spent too much time with it. I needed to move on, but we're going to release a new book from her. I mean, originally it was this year, but maybe it will slip to 26. Right. That is a crazy concept with two women falling in love on two sides of the ocean. And it's one side is written and drawn by a Quebec-based artist, and the other one is drawn by Lou, the artist from The Fox in My Brain in France. So it's like also made beforehand. And
that's great.
And you're saying a lot of what we love about comic books. We're longtime comic book lovers, buyers, whatever you want to call us, collectors. And you're talking about how the diversity in comics is such an important part of comic book. It really is. And it's
and the diversity in topics, the diversity in stories, the diversity in creators. It's not just you're throwing out a bunch of books and you say, oh, well, we have diversity, we have women, or we have black people, or we have, there's an Asian guy over there. No. Right. Diversity is not about this. I don't like diversity. I don't even like the word. I like reality. Reality is better because
it should appeal
our reality, the world around us, is so colorful, so vibrant. Yeah. It has so much. You just have to open your eyes. At the end of your street, there could be a fascinating story to be told.
That's great.
And that's what you can find in our books. Like when I came up with No Future, which again, I fell in love with that concept. It took me 14 years to write it. Because it's a time travel story, so it's very complicated to write. Yeah. But after, 10 pages, you forget about it. You just care about the characters. Right. That's why I love TV. Because TV is all about the characters. You forget the concept after 3 episodes.
Right, you just care about the people.
Care about the people, you do.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. People remember Moonlighting because of the characters, not because of the show.
Yeah, that's what makes the best shows. The ones you love the characters.
You're right. You don't really remember the fine details. You remember how much you like the people.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want, I always say, and this is something that I said to a lot of creators too, that as makers of comics and graphic novels, our duty is to convey emotion.
Yes.
If you read a comic, and as I was saying, like about French comics, it's bland and it's flat, falls out of your hands. You don't feel anything. The creators didn't do a good job.
Right.
But if you feel like these characters are real to you, this is where magic happens. And this is what comics can bring. We are there because at one point in our life, facing Tiger made a difference.
Yeah.
Well, we would love to have some of your other creators on to talk.
Sure.
We would love to have a variety on here. And if your wife was interested to talk about her books coming out, that would be great.
I'm sure she would be very interested in talking about Mutiny, because the way she writes it is so different. Honestly, I've never read anything like that. And in this book, I'm not the editor. I'm just a reader.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to say, and it's not just because like, hey, that's my wife.
Yeah.
But no, it's like the way these three ladies are doing this thing. It looks like nothing else you see on the market.
Right.
And I think people understand that.
That's what the industry needs.
100%. That's good.
That's what the industry, but the industry doesn't know it.
No,
it does not.
And some people are fighting it with tooth and nail to stop it. So,
well, it's always the same thing. You buy a copy of Intertwine, okay?
Right.
It's a $40 book. With a retailer discount, they pay it $20, okay?
Right.
So they make a $20 of, let's say, a $15 profit if they have like charges and fees and shit. They make a $15 profit per book, all right? Of course, they're not going to sell 300 copies every month. That's for sure.
Right.
But if they sell 10, okay, that's $150.
Yeah.
How many issues of a second or third tier Marvel or DC book do you have to sell to make as much money as 10 copies of Intertwine?
As a retailer, a
300.
lot. A lot.
300 or 400.
And you probably can't.
Yeah, you probably can't as a retailer.
Okay. You probably can't.
No.
So I would say if your example is like, oh, I'm just buying Saga, but Saga is no longer published.
Yeah.
Right.
So yes, when Saga was at its highest, of course, you could make more money with Saga that you could make with a lot of other comics. But it's not the case anymore. So I'm advocating for small publishers to not do single issues, but to do graphic novels.
Right.
Sure.
Because graphic novels don't have a shelf date.
Yeah.
They will never finish. They will never end up in the $1 bin.
No.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
They never do.
So they have a longer shelf life. They have a longer life period.
And you get them in bookstores.
Yeah, you get them in bookstores.
And you get into bookstores. So I would say to our retailer friends, please take a chance on independent graphic novels.
Yeah.
Because if you do, you will not regret it. And don't put it in the back. Don't put it like to settle a table or a chair.
Yeah.
Put it like facing, facing the public. And thank me later. Because at the end of the day, no, look, there's a whole other thing that I would love to discuss about like the other retailers. Like comic store retailers they're like me. They're artisans. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're on the same level. We understand each other. We have different problems, but at the end of the day, we just need to survive.
Right.
But even the people who are like at Barnes and Noble or Amazon, right, or Walmart or Target, wherever you can find books, okay?
Right.
These people, well, first, they don't necessarily care about graphic novels.
Right.
But even if they do, the way they order the biggest selling titles that are already selling. Then they're selling the biggest publishers that are already selling. And then if they have $10 left, they will order one of us.
Right. Yeah.
It gets even worse. At Barnes & Noble, where you have an average 11 shelves of graphic novels, 9 of them being manga.
Yeah.
That means that every publisher is competing to be on 3 shelves?
Yeah.
How much space can we expect to have? You see the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah. Yeah, it's not.
And again,
It's not.
I've seen what, like, everyone has a different opinion on what's happening with Diamond. Diamond has been relatively good to us. Like, I'm not saying that lightly. Diamond has been relatively good to us. Of course, there were times where I wanted to kill them. There was time where I wanted to hug them. And they're a company just like every other company. They can fuck up and they can succeed. Okay? We're not perfect. All right? But people are very angry at Diamond. It's just a company made of people that are doing their best with the card they get.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
it's a declining industry right now, so it's
Let's change.
I disagree with that. It is not a declining industry.
It's shifting.
It's a declining. No, there's a shift. Exactly. There's a shift. What is declining is the periodicals business.
yeah.
That is declining. But again, I'm not in the periodicals business.
Right. You're a book publisher.
You're a book publisher. Yeah,
I'm a book publisher. And I'm only doing periodicals through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a very smart way to run it. Very good.
Well, I mean, look, Kickstarter gives you the same feeling that the direct market gave us in the beginning, which is you are publishing something. The retailer has the bandwidth to look at what you're doing and like get excited. And in this case, it's not the retailer, it's the public.
right.
Yeah.
Get excited, buy it, and now return it.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing is, how can a retailer get excited about anything when he's offered 300 comics a week and 400 different variant covers?
He can't.
Yeah.
How
No.
can you get excited by that?
There's no way.
No, you can't.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
So I'm not blaming the retailers. Like, it's like every area, you have good ones, you have wonderful ones, and you have ones that are a little more cynical.
Yeah.
And the publishers are the same. You have great publishers,
Yeah.
and you have publishers who are playing with fire.
Right.
And it's not my place to judge who is what. I just need to survive. We just need to make it to next year so we can keep publishing the fine books that we think people will like.
Yeah.
And sometimes we will win, sometimes we won't. Again, Tennis to Sydney is not a book that has worked. Beyond Tokyo Legends is another example. One of the biggest sellers at conventions. Retailers completely ignored it. As in ignored.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. It is, especially when you have a like you said, a luxury product that really you kind of have to see it, hold it,
Yeah,
to know
you do.
why it's good.
And it has to be out there to do that. It's tough.
It has to be out there. Yeah, but
I would tell anybody watching this that they should go to Fair Square Graphics and buy a couple of books.
I hope they do, and I hope they take a chance on us, and I hope that mostly they're happy enough so that they can come back or they can recommend it to other people.
Yeah.
You know, word of mouth is not a joke. People foot traffic is down.
Yeah.
So how do you convey information when you don't have the marketing power of Disney? I can't put like $10,000 on an ad campaign on YouTube. I don't have that money.
Right.
But you have the possibility to help me by simply sharing one of our posts, sharing one of our books, talking about it.
Yeah.
This is free.
And that's
what we do.
That's what we're doing.
That's why we like. That's why we like independent publishers, because we've become very friendly with some people in the last year, and we've just trying to help them get their stuff out there for more people to read, because that's what makes comics great.
And we're doing it as fans. We're not doing it.
We're doing it as fans. We're not advertised.
The funny thing about that, if you look at the market, like that's why I always smile when people say the big two, and I say the small two.
Yeah.
Because to me, the big players are the big five or the big six, which are the big publishers of graphic novels in America. And Marvel and DC are not one of them.
They're not.
They're 9 and 10 or 10 and 11.
They are.
On the
really
scale of things. So they're not selling much in terms of graphic novels. And that's what this is where the real business is.
Yes.
The real business is in graphic novels, in books.
Yes.
You know? Like if you look at it, the graphic novel business is $45 to $48 million every year.
Yeah.
And that's half of what the French market is.
Really?
And it's a fraction of what the Japanese market is.
The Japanese market is enormous. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of looking at the big two as an example, you should look at Viz Media, they're kicking our ass. You look at Penguin Random House, Scholastic,
Scholastic,
First
big player.
I mean, Macmillan, Fantagraphics. These companies are an example to me.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I'm looking up to because they are the ones who have succeeded.
Yes.
Because they bet on creators.
Yes.
Yeah, that's, I guess, you know what? It's funny. You mentioned Fantagraphics, and I didn't think of it before, but that would be a very good comparison to what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Fantagraphics is very close to what you're doing.
I mean, we're a little more mainstream, as in, to my knowledge, they don't do manga.
Yeah, it's not the same kind of book, but
in terms of quality of printing, of course.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd rather look in that direction rather than look. I mean, have you seen Marvel's graphic novels? Seriously?
Yeah, honestly, I have. You have. I honestly don't.
The quality of the paper is poor.
I don't buy Marvel or DC stuff a lot. Honestly,
even if you did, I understand that people have taste.
I do,
and I respect people who have like that taste. Like I would never judge people if they love to read Thor or if they love to read Terminator or whatever.
Right.
Captain Planet by my friend Pepos that was just announced.
I just saw that he got that. I saw it online.
I'm glad for him. Yeah. He was my neighbor when we were living in LA. The thing is, I think the public deserves better quality.
Sure.
Because books are durable.
Yeah.
They should last more than a year.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a question of mentality. If you don't want to put the money into the thing, look at what my friends at Alien Books are doing. Probably don't care what they're doing, but what they're doing with Valiant is heroic. Like they took over Valiant, no one cared about it, and they're trying to restore it. But they're also doing 10, 20 other books that are not superheroes and that no one is talking about.
And they're called Alien Publishing?
That's the
Alien Books.
Alien Books. I'm going to look into that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now, just to wrap things up, you have the Kickstarter going now for the Big Lie. Big Lie.
Yep.
We want everyone to go to fairsquaregraphics.com.
Yes, you have less than 6 days. I mean, to this day, I don't know when this podcast is going to be broadcasted.
It will be past that. This will air probably in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it airs in 2 weeks, that means that, well, thanks to this thing that called late pledges that Kickstarter implemented a few months ago, you can still get it through the Kickstarter, even if the Kickstarter is over. So that's
good.
That's fine.
You can get that.
So you can still get to the Big Lie, but we will have the second issue of No Future that will be on Kickstarter.
Look for No Future on Kickstarter, and we'll put a link to it in the description.
Yes.
And when you go to conventions, look for Fabrice. If you see Fabrice at a convention, go over and say hello.
Either me,
pick up a book.
Either it's under my name or Crystal's name or Fair Square Graphics' name. Either one.
And we want to have Crystal on one day too. So
yeah, definitely.
Yes, she'll love that. Yeah, absolutely. And she has a unique perspective because she's a comedian. She's a stand-up comedian. So she comes from a very different.
Okay, good.
Angle.
Excellent.
We're already sold. You didn't have to oversell
it. Well, listen, thank you so much for giving your time to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome back anytime you want to. Anytime you want to promote something, just shoot us an email, let us know, and we having
and let people know that they should buy comics and covers from Top Shelf Comic.
There you go.
Okay,
there you go.
Top Shelf Comics.
Okay,
check out the interview we had with Will.
Yes.
But Fabrice, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll touch base again, all right? Take care of yourself.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for your time.
And good luck with all the conventions coming up.
Good luck. Hopefully we see you down the road.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.